Out Inc. Thank you so much for watching the broadcast. If Miss Janice is doing an excellent job, put some hand clap emojis into the chat. Let me see those hand clap emojis in the chat so you can encourage her to keep on going. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. So just a few announcements. First announcement, we're having a flash sale for our promo tees because we're getting ready to get some new merchandise. So I have this promo tee in red and also in pink. Everything must go. The only sizes we have left are large and extra large. So you can purchase this pink promo tee or our red promo tees for just $15. Please DM us or message us, or you can even email us if you're interested in buying a t-shirt. Second announcement, we are having a game night, a virtual game night, y'all, and we want all of our community to be a part of it. It's going to be via Zoom on Friday, September 25th at 8 p.m. If you know me or Janice, you know that we like to have fun. Lately, we've been tackling some heavy subjects, and we just want to chill out with y'all, relax with y'all, and just have a good time. Make sure to email us at liveitoutinc@gmail.com so that we can send you the Zoom link to be a part of the game night. Get you a glass of wine, get you a shot, whatever you need. We're going to have a good time. We're going to dance, play a few games, and just relax and just have a good time as a community, because we want to get to know you better and not just on Facebook or YouTube. So be sure to email us at liveitoutinc. I have the email down below. Just email us at liveitoutinc so that you can receive the Zoom link to be a part of our game night. Again, that's Friday, September 25th at 8 p.m. And lastly, before we get back into the show, I would like to promote a Black-owned business. This teenpreneur has started his own t-shirt line called Royalty and Wisdom. Be sure to follow him on Instagram and make a purchase. Click like, comment, let's support each other. So I purchased this tee from him. Queen, it's okay to adjust your crown. Thank you so much for being attentive to these announcements. Miss Janice, back to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live It Out Inc. Live. Today is Thursday, and it's going to be a thoughtful, thankful Thursday. And first of all, I want you guys to please click share and like and share. Share with your friends, your family, your coworkers, anybody you know. We're doing some amazing things, and we want everyone to be a part of it. Also, remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube page and be a part of the conversation, be a part of the community. Tonight, we finished our subject on relationships and mental illness. This month, September, is Suicide Awareness Month. And we want to get the word out in the community. We want to educate. We want to give people resources. And most of all, we want you to know that we are here for you. We want you to live your best life. We want you to live it out to the fullest. And that's what we're here for. So tonight, I have a very special, beautiful Black queen who's going to sit in with me tonight and tell us all about, give us some little tidbits on suicide awareness. First of all, we know what suicide is. It's the act of killing oneself intentionally. And for a person to be in that dark place is very hurtful. I mean, I can't even imagine what that feels like. And some people do self-injury with some desire to end their life. That's when they attempt suicide. They cut themselves, or they do just enough to hurt themselves not to die. So we want to get this out in the community. Hopefully we can save somebody, we can help somebody, whether it's a teenager, a preteen, a single mom, a professional, a woman, girl, LBGT, anybody, everybody. We want to bring awareness to our community and let you know that we love you and we are here to help you live it out. So without further ado, I want to invite in Miss Stephanie, and she can give you a little information on what she does. Very professional queen. She's been at this for a long time. and I admire the work that she does. And I'm gonna let her share with you, and we're gonna get started.
Thank you. Well, hello, everyone. I am Stephanie Magruder, and I am not a psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist. What I am a certified peer specialist parent. And throughout, it's an initiative that was created through the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities to certify, train, educate people who have a child or a loved one, and we're a caregiver to a person who has a diagnosis. And if you're familiar with the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, then you are aware it's the state agency that is solely responsible for the services, the resources for mental illness. They serve three population of people, and those population are persons who have a mental illness, substance addiction, which is called an addiction disease, and a developmental disability. So those are the three classes of people that are served here in the state of Georgia under the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health. And so I'm a certified peer. And what I do solely is to help families connect with services and resources. And then whether it's they need an educational support, but we help them navigate what we call the system of care. To navigate the system, if a child needs an IEP and they don't understand what's happening in the educational system, but those are things that we'll help them get, because there are a lot of little kids that don't have an IEP in place. There are a lot of youth and adults that don't know how to find appropriate services within their community. So the state does have services available within their community. So everything is not always 100% proof, but there are resources, and you need to know how to connect to those resources. And what I learned in my journey with my child was that it was not an easy journey. And so I learned the hard way. And so now I take my lived experience and I share that with other families to help the process be easy for them. And so that's what I am. I'm a Georgia certified peer specialist parent. And if you work in the mental health community, there are certified peers throughout. There are peers, adult peers. If you're connected to Grady Hospital, has peers that go out into the community and serve persons who have needs within their home. They'll help them understand the need for their medication management. So that's what I do.
Okay, awesome. I'm getting a little feedback. Okay, so what we're going to touch on tonight is we're going to talk about, suicide awareness and mental illness in the community. Ms. Stephanie, let's touch on how do you think suicide has affected people during this pandemic, especially since we've been in this pandemic? So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, actually, I was reaching out to some of my some of the other peers, and who are still. I will admit one of the biggest challenges is, their inability to go into the homes these days to provide that level of care, and so that's creating a lot of stressors within itself. And so, I was reading today on the CDC, and it said their website indicated that their the services and the need right now is 40. There is a 40% increase.
Wow.
For people who are struggling with the thought of suicide right now, just due to the pandemic.
That is.
It also, right now, suicide is the 10th highest rate of death in the state of Georgia, and the 10th rate of death across this country.
Wow. So that's why it's so important that we educate our people, and
that's right.
So they'll know that when they're having these feelings, some of the resources that they could use. Okay, so Ms. Stephanie, how do you know that a person might be suicidal?
Well, so one thing is, being a good listener, listening to people, and you might hear somebody who might, talk about self-harming themselves. You also want to, people who always expressing hopelessness. And definitely if people who have a high tendency of, overindulging in addictive disorders, drugs, alcohol, You know, they already might be suffering from depression anyway. But then
Exactly.
to add that on top of it could put them at a higher risk, especially right now. We're confined in home. We can't go out. The face mask alone is, and it's just, and even with kids, there are children who are really, really struggling with not being able to have interaction with their peers right now. They
Exactly.
can't see them. Parents are stressing with trying to cope with, being the teacher and the provider in the home and still work. And even teachers, there are a lot of teachers who are, having to socially adapt to not having that one-on-one contact with their students. So these are definitely, life is already stressful. And then the pandemic came about. And so, that has just made, throughout today, all I could see was I got several messages about here's another course. We want to train you even more to understand suicide. We want to train you all so you can be aware of the mental health crises that's taking place across this nation right now.
So when like some of the things to listen for is it will they say things like I wish I was never born, or I feel like I'm taking up space, or life would be so
Feeling
much
like
better if I wasn't here.
Yes, those are warning signs. Those are conversations that you really want to pay attention to, and it, extreme mood swings is another warning sign that you want to, somebody who's always moody, 1 minute they're happy, 1 minute they're sad, they're crying, so those are also warning signs that we need to pay attention to, so you want to give. What you don't want to do is to take the conversation lightly, to be passive. Oh, it'll pass. Oh, they're just teasing.
Okay.
Oh, they're okay. Or how can they be depressed when you're living good, you're eating good, there's food in the house, you got family, you're not lonely, but that doesn't take away what's going on emotionally with that person. So you just can't be passive.
Okay. Is it normal for people to hold on 1 second, guys? We're getting a lot of feedback. Okay. So is it normal for people to talk? I mean, like to journal and write about suicide? Like, sometimes they'll just write it down and they may not say it out, but they'll journal about it, or they'll start writing like dark poems and stuff like that. Because I know I had a little girl when she was a teenager. And all of her writings were so dark and gloomy. And I had the conversation. I said, well, what's really on your mind? What makes you write
Absolutely.
dark stories?
Absolutely. No, that is not normal.
Okay.
So, anytime that we witness or recognize something to that effect, but you know what? I will say this. Let me say that. There are people who have taken their lives and no one saw it coming. There are professional people who have, non-professionals, and nobody saw it coming. So when it's that recognizable, it certainly warrants being addressed.
Okay.
It certainly warrants being addressed.
Okay. So another question is, if a person seems troubled, like we seem like, okay, something not right with you. It's just something not right. Is it safe to ask them, say, hey, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Or
You
can
know,
asking them increase the danger of suicide?
I'm glad you said that because there is a teenage young lady, and she and her brother developed an app called Not Okay.
Okay.
And so it's all right to ask someone, "Are you okay?" I'm concerned about you. I want to know. Let's talk. There is nothing wrong with saying to somebody, "Let's talk." Let's talk about you. How was your day?
Exactly.
How are you feeling today? So anytime that there is you feel pressed in your spirit about something, or you just got that unction that, something just isn't right, you never know whose life you might save.
Exactly.
So that warrants opening the door. You might be surprised at what you might discover.
So asking it kind of shows that you care. And they need to know that you care.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I've learned that in this line of work, it's important. Listening is extremely important because, one thing that I used to do was take calls from constituents. When I worked for the Department of Behavioral Health, I would get these telephone calls, and you address all kind of needs. You're not only connecting people with services, you're taking complaints as well. But one day I got a call from a gentleman, and he had been calling for a couple of days, and he just had happened to get me this particular day. But I listened to him. He had some concerns about his medications. And then in listening, he was very brilliant, and he kept talking about he was being harassed by a conversation. And I finally said to him, I said, "Sir, how do these people keep contacting you that are harassing you?" And he told me they were contacting him through his stomach.
Oh, wow.
But had I not kept talking to him and listening to him, I could have missed that. I could have missed it. What we don't want to do in anyone's life, and especially in the area of mental health, is miss an opportunity to find out truly, what's happening with a person and what, with their environment, their home life. Right now, not only because of the pandemic, there are a lot of increased child abuse cases.
Yes.
That could trigger a child just saying, "You know what, I want to give up." Think I'm stressed in the house, or an adult for that matter. So, anytime that there is an opportunity to have a healthy conversation is a good thing.
So what kind of questions can you ask somebody that when you're worried about them or worried about their mental health? How do you ease into that conversation, whether it's an adult or even a child, a teenager that you may be concerned about?
Just
what would be like the conversation starter?
You can just ask, are you having these thoughts?
Okay.
Or straightforward, no chaser, get straight to the point. I'm concerned, I love to tell people, one of the conversations I like, I'm talking to you and you don't seem happy. Are you happy? You don't seem like your normal happy-go-lucky self. Is everything okay with you? You're not thinking about harming us, especially if you know that there is a history of mental illness or there is a history of manic depression. It's okay to go ahead and ask. And to say, "Listen, if you're we can talk, or let me give you this number to the crisis line. Let me give you this number to the suicide prevention line." It's best, and it's always, always good to have a plan in action.
Okay.
To have a plan in action, especially when there is a history of drugs and alcohol abuse. Especially when you're aware that this person has made a suicide attempt, has self-injurious behaviors, and so you want to make sure that you have a plan. If this person is thinking about harming themselves, then what am I going to do to assist them? Need to have somewhere to go for help, because trust me, you sitting there praying is good, but we're going to need something practical with that prayer.
Exactly.
And so it's okay. Get your phone numbers together. What I tell my families is, you need to build a strong team of what I call natural support.
Okay.
And those are your family and friends, people that you can go to when there's an emergency and when there's a crisis so you can get that person some help. And one thing that I wanted to say was, I'm going to put this up right here. I hope y'all can see that. I'm moving. It says "Not Okay." And this is an app for anyone, rather. And you download this app to your phone. It was created by Hannah Lucas and her brother. Let me put that up there. Hannah Lucas and her brother, and it's an app where you enter in your key contacts. And you download this app to your phone, and when you're not having a good day or you're in crisis mode, you can send an alert, and it'll shoot a mass text message to all of to your key contacts, and they know. Not only will it send out a text, it'll send them your location, so they know I need to get to you fast.
Wow.
And she created it, she and her brother. They live here in Atlanta. I had the opportunity of meeting them at one of my trainings last year. And you know, and she has a behavioral health diagnosis. She had a illness, and please forgive me, I can't pronounce it, but it affects her nervous system, and it causes her to collapse.
Okay.
And so out of that, it created stress in her life, which, you know, triggered a behavioral health diagnosis. And so out of that, you know, she had a suicide attempt and survived, praise God. And then she developed this app, you know, and so you, like I said, you download it to your phone, build your list of key contacts and supports. And I actually have it in my phone.
Okay.
And it's a great resource, you know, and I just try to information.
So when a person, when they're resisting the help, like you know that they need help, but they're resisting the help, how do you go about that? Do you
That's a whole nother ball game, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
If it's a child, you're okay if it's a minor. Okay. So because you can always call your crisis team, take them to the psychiatrist, and the help comes, I don't want to say easier, but it's a better process. It's a smoother process when it's a minor. But when you get into an adult who does not want help, you can't force them.
Wow.
You can't make them. Now, if the illness is critical enough, you can go to the court and do what they call a order to apprehend. And it's called an OTA.
Okay.
You go to probate court. You must go with that with a witness. You go, so it's two parties that will go to the courthouse, to the clerk, and tell them that. And all it does when you have to do an order to apprehend, all it does is, if it's approved through the clerk of the court, then they will send the sheriffs out to escort that person to a hospital to just do an evaluation. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be admitted, but that's a process also.
And it's a step toward getting help.
It's a step towards getting help.
Okay. Now, what if you ask somebody like how you said, you just be straight up and you ask them, if you ever thought about suicide, and they say, yeah, I thought about it. Then what you do? Like, you're not expecting them to say, yeah, I thought about killing myself and what? So what do you do when you hit with, yeah, I thought about it?
Well, how do you feel today? Are you still thinking about it? You know, have you considered, you know, seeing a therapist, seeing a psychiatrist? You know, when you felt that way, what did you do? You certainly want to know if they acted out, if they acted on that thought.
Okay.
You know, and so you want to have those conversations to see, you know, what I've learned is that most therapists and psychiatrists will ask, did they share with you the method they wanted to use? And I believe they asked that question because it kind of adds validity to that person's thought process. Oh. And so in their mindset, if a person has decided how they're going to do it, then that certainly warrants some medical professional help.
Okay. So like when we was talking earlier, like if my child or my friend is talking about that and I know they just so over dramatic, how do I distinguish if the person is just being like, she's just being over dramatic? You ain't trying to do nothing. But they say it. So how do I weigh that?
never take it as, they're just talking. Again, I can't stress the importance of, making people accountable for what's coming out of their mouth and finding out specifically or if you're serious or not, and stressing to them the importance of seeking help.
Wow. Okay, so and when we talk about suicide, who do you think is like at a greater risk? Like who I know they say ages 10 to 20, ages 10, I was doing some research on it. 10 to 24 is like that's the highest. Suicide is the second death rate, second highest death rate next to accidental death at ages 10 to 24. So those are our young people.
And
So
it's still that it's the teenagers right now are the ones that are at more risk of harming themselves.
wow.
Mhm.
Why? I mean, like, because a lot of them are not diagnosed with mental illness. So is it just depression? Is it? I mean, like, how do
Well,
we?
you know what? I had this in one of my classes about suicide awareness. I had this discussion, and what we came up with that the awareness of it. A long time ago, it just, when I was a girl, I never heard of it.
Neither did I. Neither did I.
And then influence. There was one particular show. I don't want to call that television show's name, but it's on Netflix, and it was a show strictly showing children how to end their lives.
Oh wow.
And I don't believe that show still comes on, but it brought a lot of attention to us peers, and
Okay.
it really worried us, that show was even on air. But I don't believe that it is now. And but it seemed as if the awareness of it kind of triggered, increased the possibility of someone who's battling with depression, someone who's being bullied. We heard stories ourselves about kids who just, you know, gave up hope because they were so bullied. The pain, the emotional pain and the struggle was so deep that it was enough for them to just say, I don't want to be here anymore. And, bullying and peer pressure is, still to this day can, end up with somebody just really, really, really ending their life, a
Wow.
child ending their life.
Do you think the bullying is gonna? Because our kids are they were on social media and on online a lot, but during this pandemic, they are really online. So do you think the cyberbullying is going to increase? I mean, I know because they so stuck in the house, they so limited in how they can move and how places they can go. Do you think it would take an increase during this
Oh
time,
yes, oh yes,
especially
absolutely. I
live?
was just speaking with a mom earlier today, and she expressed how during her child's Zoom lesson, she listened to the kids um, bully her child, name calling, and talking about their sexuality, and she had to literally chime in on that lesson. That's it's
Wow.
supposed to be a school, a learning environment, but here it is that this child or those children took it as an opportunity to cause someone else some harm, some
Wow.
emotional harm.
So we still got to work out the kinks in this virtual learning
Yes, Lord, and they need to work out the kinks in their household, make sure people are aware what their children are doing.
what their children
You
are
know.
doing. Exactly.
hmm
I did some research and it was saying 6 questions that may help stop a suicide. And tell me what you think. One of the questions was you asked, have you wished you were dead or wish you could go to sleep and not wake up? Um,
Wow.
Another question was, have you actually had thoughts about killing yourself? Have you thought about how you might do this? And I heard you mention that. Have you had any intention of acting on these thoughts of killing yourself? Have you started to work out, or have you worked out the details of how to kill yourself? And do you
Mm-hmm.
intend to carry out this plan? And the last question was, have you done anything, started to do anything, or prepared to do anything to end your life? And they were saying a yes to any of these questions indicates that the person needs help. But they were saying if they answer yes to question 4, 5, or 6, that you should immediately escort your friend or your child to an emergency personnel immediately. And they said, do not leave them alone until you have personally put them in the care of that professional. Say, because if you leave them alone, you know, that could be the moment that they do it. So in that case right there, are those, I mean, like, are those good questions to ask? I mean, like,
They
it's
are good.
scary just reading those questions, and just imagine trying to have that conversation with somebody, which is probably another stigma on why we don't do it. You know, we don't do it because it is a very hard conversation to have.
But
Um,
it's worth it.
it is where I agree.
It
It's
is worth it. And what about when, and I can't stress the, the number of times, I've gone to work and sometimes I ride the MARTA train. And guess what? There have been times I couldn't get home or couldn't go to work on time because somebody decided they were going to jump on the train track and
yeah.
kill themselves. And right here in Atlanta, Georgia, it's happened. It's happened twice this year,
Wow.
right before the pandemic.
Wow.
So, what do you think that person's friends, families thought that, wow, did they have the conversation or did they not have that conversation? I can guarantee you it was worth having, no matter how difficult it is to get those words out of your mouth. And you could possibly save somebody's life. So it's worth having the conversation. Sometimes it hurts my heart. I'm like, wow, nobody saw that coming.
Yeah.
No, nobody saw that coming. What I've learned in working in this area in mental health is we need to learn to tell the truth.
Is yes.
We need to
Yes.
learn to tell the truth. I've gotten where, you know what, God, I need help. I don't know what to say anymore. All I can do is share my truth. Whether they
Exactly.
like it or not, my story, my journey, it's mine. But I'm going to fight for my child until God throw dirt on this body.
Exactly. And that's why we have to get it out. We got to get the awareness out. We got to get the resources out. We got to have
Yes.
hard conversations, people.
Yes.
If you see somebody, if you're in a relationship close enough, if it's the neighbor's kid, if it's your coaching kids, or if it's somebody, your niece, your nephew, anybody, if you're close enough to have conversation, if you see something, please, almost like if you see something, say something. Because
That's
at the
right.
end of the day, I think they need to know that somebody just cares enough to listen to what I have to say.
That's right. And I've had conversations with people who were in a mental health crisis. I talked to them, I connected them with resources, I connected them with services, and guess what? They still took their life.
Wow.
And when I found out about it, I'm like, God, did I miss something? Did I not say something? What did I, you just spend your time trying to replay that scenario back in your mind over and over again. That's a hard cross to bear,
Yeah.
but sometimes, it's not just enough to connect them with resources and services. That person must also be willing to follow up with their self-care. They must also be willing to follow the doctor's orders. If alcohol gonna make you think one, have a friend, and her child passed away, and every time they drank, they would just get uncontrollable with grief.
Yes.
I said, you know what? You got to let the alcohol go. You got to let it go because it's heightening your emotions. It's taking you to this dark place where you don't need to be. And so those tough conversations are necessary. It might hurt. It might not be good to you, but it'll be good for you.
Okay. So with families out there, like people that's listening, and if you are listening, and if you had those thoughts, or you're having those thoughts, please reach out to us. We're here for you. Miss Stephanie
Absolutely.
has a plethora of resources
Absolutely.
that she would love to share.
Absolutely.
But to the people that's online with us, that's listening, what is it that we need to do for those people? Like, if we see the warning signs, if we come across it, if we notice something is troubling somebody, what do we need to do? Because we, as African Americans, I know we'll make a joke out of a girl. You know, you tripping. You need to go get yourself together.
Right.
We'll pass it off as you'll be all right. Go do what you need to do and come.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
We got to get away from the stigma. So what is it? And then a lot of times we don't do because we don't know what to do. We just know
Right.
what we do. So what would you advise for people who can help save somebody
Okay.
to do?
Well, first things first. Now, if you come across someone and they're in imminent danger, like right now, you need help, and that person is in imminent danger, I would suggest you dial 911 and ask for, let them know this person's having a mental health crisis. They're contemplating suicide. Now, if there is a weapon involved and the situation has gotten volatile, please know you need to tell them you need a crisis intervention trained officer,
Okay.
a CIT officer, and let them know that it's a heightened situation, especially if there is a weapon involved. Okay. And they'll send someone out. Now, if the person is, you know, they're not themselves, they're talking about harming themselves, then you can call the Georgia Crisis and Access line, and they can dispatch what they call a mobile crisis team.
Okay.
They can also go ahead and talk to that person on the phone and just find out, they can do an assessment over the phone, as well as send out dispatch what they call a mobile crisis unit to that person's physical address. And after a series of questions, they can deem that person is eligible for a 1013 and can transport them to the hospital. They also work with law enforcement also too, and so they are familiar with calling. Sometimes they'll be on the phone with you and they'll dispatch the police and fire department and an ambulance to you, as long as the person isn't extremely violent. So you have to be in a situation where you've made a good assessment and evaluation as to how can I safely get this person help. Safety is always important. Safety rule number one: always keep yourself safe. Keep that person safe and keep yourself safe. And so mobile crisis will help assist you from there. And so you also want to be aware of how do I access what private providers. Stay in contact with you don't want to oftentimes have to get state supported services. There are good state providers. And so do your research. If you know you have a loved one who has a history of mental illness and that contemplated suicide, you need to start lining up a provider that can help you when you're in crisis.
So these are all numbers that we need to know. We need to know that we can access the Georgia Crisis Line. They even have a thing where you can text if you don't want to talk. It was called
They have an app also. They also have an app that you can download to your phone and text. But let me give you that number. I don't know, but I can tell you that number to the Georgia Crisis and Access Line. It's 1-800-715-4225. Again, 1-800-715-4225. And I tell you what, they're a good number just to connect to providers. You don't have to just, be thinking about harming yourself to call that number. You can call that number and say, hey, listen, I have a history of mental illness and I need to connect to a provider where I can get my medication management and I'm getting my counseling and my therapy on, and they will help you find a provider in your community where you live.
Okay. Good information. I mean, like, it's so many resources out there, guys. There's so many people out there that's willing to help. I didn't even know it was that much help out there. I didn't even know that you could dial 911 and ask for a crisis trained officer.
That's right.
That was to me. But that's real good to know, especially when you're dealing with somebody that's dealing with mental illness or
Yeah.
suicide.
You always want to ask for a crisis intervention trained officer, to help, because they are specially trained to work with persons who have disabilities.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
And they are across the state of Georgia. It is, a statewide position.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, we have all of this information. I hope you guys took down some of the resources. Miss Stephanie, I need you to give me that number, that 1-800 number you gave me.
Okay. All right. It is 1-800-715-4225.
Okay, and that's the
Georgia Crisis and Access Line, and it's GCAL for short. And if I'm not mistaken, they even have the GCAL number posted in the school system these days. So they are like the gateway into state supported services here in the state of Georgia.
Okay, now last question, and we're gonna and you're working with, and I know you did some suicide intervention. How is that like when you're working with them? How is that for you? Like, how does that work?
Well, so it's reward. It's self gratifying for me.
Okay.
I will admit that you're not being judgmental. You are certainly letting people's stories be their stories. And so all you can do is support, love, be empathetic, and just watch them thrive. Because a lot of them end up, working and being peers and sharing their lived experiences with others. And so the community is, it's a big community. There are a lot of peers throughout the state of Georgia, and everybody has a different story, a beautiful story, especially when you see them, in what we call recovery, in their recovery phase. And anybody that has a behavioral health diagnosis or addictive disease, or or has contemplated suicide, when you reach your area of recovery, that means that that's, in essence, that means that solidifies that you're whole. You overcame that situation, you overcame that struggle, that you can now move forward to help somebody else in their journey.
Okay, well, that's awesome. So I know later on this month we will talk to some people that have recovered,
survivors. Okay,
share their story, and we want to continue to bring suicide awareness, mental illness awareness to our community. People, we got to have the conversations again. If we educate ourselves, then we can be more help to our family and friends, and try and help save somebody, our young people, our old people, our depressed people, our people that's dealing with things during this pandemic.
Yes.
That has really, and I know this pandemic is really wearing and tearing on a lot of people. So we got to educate ourselves, guys. We got to save ourselves. We got to do something. We can no longer just sit back and act like these things are not happening in our community or around us.
That's right.
I want to thank you much.
You're welcome. I also want to give you, I don't think I gave you this number, but to the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, let me make sure you all have that number. And it's a national hotline number, but they can connect you with services within your community also. But that number is 273-8255. And again, that's the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That number again is 1-800-237-8255. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that that number, they just came up with a 3-digit number to make, because when you're in crisis, you know, remembering these phone numbers can be difficult, can be overwhelming. But hold on, let me see here. Let me find it.
They have a crisis line. Text the word start 741.
Say that again.
They have a crisis text line where you text the word start to 741-741. And that's just the number. And you can
Okay.
That's the texting part.
Oh, okay, for the text. Okay. All right. And there is a 3-digit number. Found it. It's the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You dial 988.
988.
Yeah, 988.
And that's what's it?
That's the Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
Yes. So I just gave you the long version of it, but this is a short version, 988.
988.
Mm-hmm.
Good information to have. So I hope you guys have absorbed all of these resources, all of this information. Miss Stephanie, you have been wonderful. Before we leave, I want to remind you guys that Live It Out Inc. will be having a game night on September the 25th, 2020 at 8 p.m. We want you guys to email us at liveitoutinc@gmail.com so you can be on our Zoom for game night. It's games, it's fun. Grab your wine, grab your water, grab your fruits, grab whatever you like to drink on or eat on when you're having a good time. And we're going to have
in moderation.
In moderation.
In moderation, yes. In moderation, exactly. Again, if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the feed. And we'll keep in touch. Miss Stephanie is now in our Rolodex for Live It Out Inc. Because you have so many resources that I know I didn't know about.
Yeah.
So now that I know, we can pass this information on to somebody who may need it, and that's what we want to do. That's how we want to get the word out. So again, thank you, Miss Stephanie Queen. I love you. You're beautiful.
I love you too. Thank you. I do want to say one thing, so remember, if somebody's needing help, the state of Georgia has what they call 26 community service boards across the state of Georgia. And those community service boards are where you link for services in your area for your behavioral health, your developmental disability, or your addiction needs. So reach out to them. And you can connect to them through GCAL also.
Okay.
All right. And that will, keep you out the hospital.
We're going to bring you back when we talk about ADHD.
Okay.
And developmental disabilities.
Oh, okay.
Especially in dealing with our kids and some of these grown-ups that have ADHD and developmental
tell me about it.
Disabilities. And I think that is
a lot of folks just haven't been diagnosed.
Exactly. Walking around here undiagnosed.
Right.
Thank you again, beautiful. We want to remind you guys to live your best life. Live it out. Throw your L up, Miss Stephanie, for Live It Out Inc.
You better live it out.
Yes, live it out. Enjoy life. Let's love each other. Let's support each other. And let's support each other, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Miss Stephanie.
Thank you, too. I love y'all. Thank y'all for this. It was an honor.
No, girl, you are a walking Google. I love it.
Love you, too.